Men scurried about the roof, stomping out the fires as best they could, but they couldn't keep up. The men jumped from the roof and then did their best to flee. Some had broken bones in the fall and were unable to get away in time. They lay on the ground or tried to crawl away, but were quickly overcome by the heat or the smoke. Embers landed on some of them, setting their clothes ablaze. But the men didn't move. As the palisade erupted in flame, the heat came at me in waves, almost unbearable in their intensity. I cried out, and I imagined throwing myself from the tower into the cold water of the Zold. But this was a fantasy. The river was nearly a mile away on the far western side of the city. The fire would not stop until it reached it. There were no bridges on this part of the Zold. Only those lucky enough to get aboard one of the barges would escape the flames. As the heat grew even more intense, I considered throwing myself from the tower anyway. Apatornia was nearly 300 feet tall. I would die instantly on impact. But this, I knew, was not my fate either. I would not be spared the sight of the destruction of Nagyvaros, nor of the hellish heat that accompanied it. My eyes burned from the smoke, but I forced myself to keep them open, to take it all in. Nearly a third of the city was now ablaze, and the spires cast long, harsh shadows across the Zold and the plains beyond. The spectacle was eerily beautiful. From this height I could almost imagine the people scurrying frantically to escape the flames were only mice or insects. But the wind, carrying their screams, spoiled the illusion. "You did this," the wind howled at me. "You destroyed Nagyvaros." I wanted to protest, to say it wasn't true, but the words caught in my parched throat. Tears poured down my cheeks and the heat seared my skin. I backed away from the railing, putting my back against the stone wall, but there was no relief. The unbearable heat was everywhere. It was as if the fire were inside me, consuming me from the inside out. I tore off my clothing, but nothing helped. I wanted to die, but could not. The only hope I had was that the fire would eventually have to pass, but I was in such agony that time seemed to have lost all meaning. Seconds seemed like hours. I opened my mouth to scream, but could not make a sound. Then a shadow passed over me, and there was some relief. Someone had moved between me and the flames. A familiar voice spoke.
"It's all right, old friend. The worst is over. Drink a little of this."
I felt the mouth of a bottle at my lips. Cold water poured into my mouth and down my chin. I wanted to weep for joy, but my tears had all been spent.
"Easy, that's enough for now."
I knew the voice, but could not place it. It was someone I knew, someone I trusted. The bottle, I thought. Something about the bottle jogged my memory. "Roderick?" I croaked.
"Ah, you recognize my voice. Then I suppose you haven't lost your wits entirely."
"The flames," I gasped. "You'll burn." Roderick chuckled.
"I wish. It's as cold as a troll's tits tonight."
I opened my eyes and realized I was lying in bed, with my head and shoulders propped up on pillows. Roderick sat on the bed next to me. Behind him a fire roared in the fireplace. I sat up. "The fire?" I asked uncertainly.
"I paid a few more Hermes for extra wood tonight," Roderick said. "The healer said not to let the room get too cold, even though you've been burning up for 3 days. Anyway, it seems the fever has broken at last."
"Fever," I repeated dumbly. "Then the city, Nagyvaros, is safe?" Roderick gave me a pained look.
"Oh, not by a long shot,"
he said. Chapter 1. Having not had a bite to eat in 3 days, I was famished. Roderick managed to fetch me some bread and sausages as well as some weak wine. While I waited, I gulped down the rest of the water. Outside the window, it was dark. There were 2 other small beds in the room. On the farthest one slept a curled-up figure whom I recognized as my other traveling companion, the orphaned boy, Vili. I couldn't eat much, but I was